stage. Happy New Year. Do you mind if I just put my phone on airplane? I'm afraid that somebody's going to call. Nobody ever calls me, but somebody might choose to call me right now. I'm on stage with you guys. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about my obsession with the D. You want to know what that is, huh? Yeah. You may figure it out. So, November 13, 2017, I felt a pain in my chest. It felt like an elephant was standing on my chest. An elephant wearing stilettos. Yeah, standing on my chest. I was just coming back from teaching a yoga class. So I was like, is this gas? Or it could be a heart attack. I heard a heart attack feels like that. So I ended up, I waited, I drove to my parking spot in my apartment. I parked my car, called 911. And the pain started to increase. And my breathing started to tighten. And I called 911, and she was helping me navigate the breath because it was getting harder and harder to breathe. And then I thought, I'm going to get out of my car so that when they come to rescue me, I can be right out in front of my building. But I couldn't walk. My legs got really weak, and I ended up laying on the ground. And then I was screaming and writhing and screeching and panting, and she's really trying to get me to slow my breath down, and I couldn't slow it down, and then I saw him. This firefighter came walking toward me. He was 6'5", bronze skin, eyes like root beer candy, pillowy lips. And as soon as he knelt down, I kind of tried to arch my back. Still in excruciating pain, unable. He said, ma'am? And I said, yeah. Can you slow your breathing down for me, please? Like this? Oh, he was so sweet and so gentle with me, the way my husband would be if he were my husband. Ma'am, can you tell me your name, please? And I told him, and what's your name? And he said, R. Grant. I said, R. Grant, am I going to die? He says, no, I don't think so. We're going to figure this out. And when we got in the ambulance, well, first he stretched my eyeballs, my eyelids open so he could flash the light in my eyes, and I took that moment to try to catch his gaze so that we could like connect and just get our love affair started. And then when we got in the ambulance, I thought I was going to keep this date, because this is a date for me. And so he asked me if I knew what day it was, and I told him, and then I asked him what sign he was. And he asked me how I ended up on the ground, and I told him about the weakness in my legs, and then I commented on the size of his hands. I notice you're not wearing a ring. Do you have any kids? And he just ignored my every question. But I continued to shamelessly flirt with this man from the time he took me out of the ambulance and wheeled me into the hospital. And I kept my eye on him. I clocked him everywhere he went and everything he did. I was like, this man's mine. And I saw him giving the vitals to the medical team. And then he was getting ready to walk away, and I said, "R. Grant, R. Grant." And he turned and looked, and I was like, I don't have your number. And he started to walk back toward me. And he had a gait like Denzel Washington. And I was like, my heart was pounding. the pain was just kind of, I don't remember the pain at that moment. I just saw him walking toward me, and he bent down and he whispered in my ear, "Just call 911. Yeah. I learned later that day that from Dr. Chopra that I was having an aortic dissection. Yeah, an aortic dissection is when your aorta swells up, you get an abscess, and mine had abscess, and the abscess was pressing up against my spine, which explained the numbness in my legs. And Dr. Chopra told me as if I was soulless, you have this is my Dr. Chopra, you have a 20% chance of surviving this, and if you do, you will never walk again.
Oh, nice.
I said, 20% chance of surviving. And I did the math. It took me a little while. I went to public school. That's 80% chance of death? And he said, yeah. And if you do survive, you will never walk again. And I said, okay. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I took all this information in with a very calm mind. And I thought, well, I'm never going to see my family again. I said, okay, everybody I love knows I love them. I won't have to do my taxes. And I won't have to hear another word about Donald Trump. That was all I needed. I was good. I was ready. And I said, you know, never walking again death felt like a really good, answer to that. I didn't want to experience that. So I prayed and I surrendered. And I just remember falling into song, and Amazing Grace, as they wheeled me into the operating room. How sweet the sound. They transferred me onto the operating table. That's it. And they slowly lowered the gas mask over my face. And instead of counting, I continued to sing. I once was lost, but now I'm found. And I felt a tear streaming from my eyes and pooling into my ears. And I remembered at that moment thinking, this is my last moment on earth. I inhaled the gas, and when I exhaled, it was Aretha Franklin singing. And you know how they talk about when you about to die, when you're right at the brink of death, you see that bright light and that amazing feeling of love overcoming you? Well, none of that shit happened to me. No. I woke up with this thing stuffed down my throat. I was surrounded by this torsos covered in pastel-colored scrubs and a smattering of applause. And the first thing I thought was, wait a minute, I'm not dead? I'm supposed to be dead. Okay, let me check myself out. Okay, I'm not dead. Am I dead? Is this purgatory? And then I went to feel my body. I did a body scan. Felt my arms. I can feel my arms. My arms are great. Okay, now feel your legs. Okay, try to wiggle your toes. You can't wiggle your toes. Fuck, I can't wiggle my toes. Oh my God. And I just heard, and if you do live, you'll never walk again, in my head. God, what happened, God? I prayed.
God, we had a conversation. What are you doing to me? Why have you forsaken me? And I heard a voice, you are so lucky. You are so blessed. It was a nurse. And I thought to myself, bitch, I don't have fucking legs. And I had this thing stuffed down my throat, so I legitimately couldn't cuss her out, but, that was like what I would have said if I could. And I was like, I can't feel my legs. What am I going to do without my legs? You all understand, my legs were the way that I defined myself. My legs were my calling. My legs were once described as long as hope and as strong as desire. I mean, I described them that way, but the point is, my legs danced and jumped and spun and swam with grace. I was an athlete. That's hyperbolic. I was an aerobic instructor for a very long time. And I taught yoga. And, I did a couple of triathlons. But my legs, they entered the room before I did. My legs got me out of tickets and with my cleavage as an assist. I mean, my legs were my everything. And I couldn't understand how I was going to do this life without the use of my legs. And I asked God, please just take me. I can't do this. God, just take me. And if you don't take me, then just show me what this is all for, what this is all about. And right after I finished that prayer, my whole community, my family, my friends, they all came flooding in. And they were with me in ICU. They were with me all through rehab. They helped me get it transition back into my independence. When I was in the wheelchair, they dealt with me and managed me really lovingly. And they continued to tell me how blessed and how lucky I was. And if I was a cold bitch, I would have told him to kiss my ass, because I was not happy. The one thing that got me out of the funk was a magical opioid called Dilaudid. There was a song, this is the beginning of my ICU sentence, I call it. And I was in Trendelenburg, but that's when your head is facing down and your legs are up and you can't see anything but the ceiling. And I had the TV playing so that I didn't have to hear the machines beeping. And there was two commercials on loop. One was a DJ Khaled 7-Up commercial. Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up, right? And then there was another one. It was a travel commercial. I want to fly away, I want to fly away. And I hated those commercials. I wanted to throw something at the TV because of the optimism of them. And one day Nurse Linda came in and she hooked up to my IV pole this bag. And she handed me this apparatus that looked like a Jeopardy buzzer. And she said, when you start to feel this pain, that I had this beautiful scar down the front of my chest. When you start to feel the pain, just press the button. And, when it gets to about a 7, don't let it get higher than a 10. When it gets to about a 7, just press the button. So I did that. And that DJ Khaled commercial, I went from being an annoying earworm to the way I greeted people when they came in. Hi, Kim, how you doing today? Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up. That Dilaudid just shifted everything for me. I went from just feeling like I'm living in a personal hell to, ooh, this is nice. Dilaudid reminded me of, I didn't feel that free. The only time I've ever felt that free was, and
I've been debating whether or not I should even share this with you, but I'm going to. It was the time that I met my now ex-husband in Jamaica, and I was riding him reverse cowgirl on the beach. And, you know, it was my failed attempt at a one-night stand, but don't judge me, y'all. Like, listen, first of all, it was Jamaica. What's a guan, gal? You try to resist that shit. One punch. He was fine for days. And the weed was fucking phenomenal. But my body drank in the Dilaudid, I spent 21 days in that Dilaudid bliss. I went from like feeling humiliated every time I was being airlifted from my bed to the commode so that Nurse Linda could put her finger on my anus to stimulate it so that I could poop, to feeling like, woo, I can fly. And then when I got on the commode, I would get lost in thought about how the asshole gets a bad rap. Right? Because I think about it, because the asshole really is like, it's bad marketing. Like, it really, because the asshole tells us, is the indicator of our health, of a healthy system, right? When things are moving well, the asshole will let it go. And when things aren't, the asshole needs a little. So then I thought, well, you know, I just thought about our current president. And the sphincter in chief is somebody that we should actually be thanking. Because of him, we get to see how sick our nation really is. And you do not. Go ahead. Yeah. You can't heal until you know you're sick, right? The Dilaudid also allowed me and freed me to think about who I'd be if I stepped into my dreams. You know, I started thinking about who I was when I was between 6 and 9. And when I was just starting to form my dreams and aspirations became a little bit too big to share without judgment. And then I went into those moments in life where I started forgetting how to dream. And then I went to the time where my self-worth was just slipped from my soul like a punctured tire. And where I stopped listening to my body. And then when I started disrespecting her. And every time the pain would resurface when I got to about a 7, and the dark feelings started to overwhelm me, I would just press the button, and the Dilaudid would lay over me like a fluffy weighted blanket. And then I would start to and then it would take me to a place, the land of what if. And I revisited myself when I was at my peak. And I brought that vivacious young woman into the future. And we danced together to the rhythm of hope. And Dilaudid had me thinking of who I could be if I stepped into my dreams with or without legs. I mean, I don't need legs to be a New York Times best-selling author. Dilaudid had me walking, though, so maybe I can walk. Dilaudid had me walking on stage. I heard the heel strikes as I walked toward the spotlight and stood to receive the accolades of the audience as I thanked the Academy
And then eventually I had to leave ICU and they brought me to the physical rehab center. And honestly, that was a total, well, the nurse came in and told me that, you know, she was going to give me 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol. And I was like, no. Where's my Dilaudid? And she said, no. Here's your plan. We're going to give you 1,000 milligrams. And I just stopped listening. And I was like, no, I need to talk to your manager. And then Vinny, the pharmacy bouncer, came in. And he was like, you're not going to get any more IV drugs. You're not getting any more IV opioids. We can give you a time-release drug, but that's it. We're stopping you with the Dilaudid. And then he mentioned something about addiction, blah, blah. I don't know. But I'm very happy that they weaned me off because I was in love with the drug. And honestly, if I met Dilaudid in the street, I would be a hoe right now. I'd be dressed somewhere half naked selling my ass for a hit, I promise you. With no shame. Yeah. And, you know, I had to let it go, and it was hard. And by 2017, I knew how to do hard things, but this was hard. Like letting go of the Dilaudid was like the doom, the feelings of doom, the shame, the just like, you know, that oh, you suck, Kim. Like, how are you here? Why are you in a wheelchair? Like, nothing. There was no love for myself. I had no love for myself. I couldn't find the light when the Dilaudid was gone. I just couldn't. And then suddenly, like in the middle of the night, my dreams started to bubble up. And they started to tap me on my shoulder. And I started to, the aspirations started to resurface. And the what ifs started to like come back. And I was like, what is this about? Like, I was being pulled forward. And without even really thinking about it, everything I did, every choice I made was like moving me closer and closer to the things that I imagined while I was in my Dilaudid dream state. I couldn't ignore them. They were very persistent, and they stayed patient until I was ready to take my first step. And I mean that literally and figuratively. From the time I got out of the wheelchair, about a year later, and when I took my first step onto a storytelling stage. And Langston Hughes has this quote. It says, let me think about it now. It says, heed to your dreams, because when dreams die, life is like a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. I want to fly away, fly away, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, wait, I never told you what the D stood for, huh? Well, let me tell you. One of the Dilaudid dreams was me walking into the fire station. And I did that. I brought him and his colleagues a bunch of cupcakes to say thank you. And I found out the R in our grant stands for Richard. I call him Dick.